Anthony F. Elmore, President and founder of the proud Black Buddhist World Association. We are not only the Black Buddhist force in America, we are the Black Buddhist force of the world. And today, we bring you another exciting Black Buddhist lecture. Now, my lecture today is The Christian Religion Evolved from Buddhism, a Black Buddhist lecture by Anthony F. Elmore Sr. I am the first person in the 21st century to lecture via the worldwide internet on this subject. You see, so we can be clear, while I am a Black Buddhist teacher, I did not just come up with an idea that the Christian religion evolved from Buddhism. You see, where I learned archaeological, anthropological, sociological, historical, and literary science about this, I learned this from the 1836 British historian. The book was titled The Eclipses, written by Sir Godfrey Higgins, who wrote about religion, philosophy, and history. Now, in the book, it's called The Eclipses, and this is what Sir Godfrey Higgins writes, quote, "The time has arrived when it becomes proper to enter upon an examination of the doctrines of the celebrated Buddha of India, where the foundation of all the mystics of the Western nations, as well as those of Krishna, and from these two were supplied most of the superstitions which became engrafted into the religion of Jesus Christ," unquote. You see, this is what you must understand if you are Black. See, if you are Black, what racists and white supremacists had to do, they had to erase all Black Buddhist history, because Buddhist history is Black history. In order to perpetrate the fraud of white supremacy and racism, they had to erase Black Buddhist history. Because when you dig into Black Buddhist history, there are things that you will learn. For example, the first people to come to India, there were Black people who moved from Africa to India, and they were called Kushites, or they were Kush people. They called themselves the Kushites. The Kushites developed a civilization in India. As far as 9,000 years ago, 9,000, 8,000 years ago, called the Indus Valley Civilization, which is actually older and larger than Egypt and Mesopotamia put together. From this culture in India came the Buddhist religion. So, in order for white supremacists to perpetrate the fraud of racism, see, what you must understand, that race is a social construct. There's nothing biological about people that make us different or such thing as a race. This was only social construct used. Now, in order to perpetrate the fraud of race, one of the greatest tools they used was religion, and the Christian religion, which actually evolved from Buddhism, is a way that they use to perpetrate the fraud of race. Now, the first civilization from people known as white people was the Roman civilization, and it came thousands of years later than the Harappan or the civilizations, Black civilizations of Egypt and Egypt. Now, let me be clear. The major way that white supremacists and racists created race was via through the Christian religion, whereas Black Buddhist teachings evolved into the Christian religion. The religion of the Buddha was the Black God and his mother. The story of the Black God and his mother, which was the Buddha, was erased out of history. However, all over Europe, you would see the pictures of the Black God and his mother. Now, this is what I like to know. If there is any honest people who I can speak with, the first Black Buddhists were not only vegetarians, they brought the Black God and his mother to Italy hundreds of years before there was ever a religion that was officially called Christian. White people and people over the world practice the religion of the Black God and his mother. You see pictures all over the world of the Black God and his mother. It was only in 325 AD at the Council of Nicaea that King Constantine made the religion official. Now what he did was he added the god of England or Britain called Jesus to the name, and then they added the name from the Krishnas. See, the Krishnas was another set of Buddhists, and they officially called the religion of the new god Jesus Krishna. However, the religion of the Black God and his mother was all over Europe. At this time, we had the Kushan Empire, but the Kushan, or the Kush Empire rather, had changed its name to Abyssinia because it changed to become Christian. Now, what I want you to understand, that in the Bible, how we know about the Buddhists is the word Samaritan. See, in the Bible, that was the Good Samaritans. In the story of Christ, British historian Godfrey Higgins spells Samaritan, or he writes the Samaritans were the gymnosophist of Buddhists. Now, the word Samaritan means Buddha or Buddhist people. The Buddhists or passive people brought their religion or Christ or Buddha into Italy. When you see the Catholic Church, the Black Madonna you are looking at is the Buddha and his mother Maya. Higgins also writes, quote, "We see here that the followers of Buddha are called gymnosophists. It is observed that Nero of Ethiopia was Niru. This is confirmed by an observation of Helidorius that priests of Nero were of a humane character and were called gymnosophists." This is what white people do not tell black people. For hundreds of years, white people in Europe practiced the religion of the Buddha all over Europe. White people practice Buddhism, and you will see whites honoring the black baby child, Buddha, and his mother. I beg my viewers to stop and think for a moment. How is it that we find all over Europe the image of a black god and his mother? Just Google the Black Madonna and try to find out why we have the Black Madonna. When you research such things, like the Da Vinci Code idea is conjured that it is somehow connected to forbidden secrets of Mary Magdalene. See, ladies and gentlemen, there is a secret regarding the Christian religion, And the secret is, quote, the Black Buddhist connection to Christian history. These secrets have been unraveled hundreds of years ago by British historian Sir Godfrey Higgins. Again, I repeat what he writes, quote, but all these accounts seem to show signs of the first Black Buddhist people as either no animal food or the Black Pagasi or Armenians as come to Italy and bring the Black God and his mother along with them. And they not only brought the Black God and his mother, they brought his house of Loreto. What you will find is that these stories were engrafted from the Buddhist religion. You do not have to take my word for it. The Christian story, Sermon on the Mount, and the Buddhist story, Temptation of Mara, is the same story. Mara is called the devil. The story of the prodigal son comes right out of the Lotus Sutra. This and Christianity are the same stories. Now, the way to bring everything to perspective to understand how white people wrote Black people out of the story, when you bring Black people to the story, you can connect the dots. See, Buddhists, Christians, and Black people in early religious history are one and the same people. The way whites changed the story was to extricate Black people out of both Christian and Buddhist history. Please note, Buddhism and early Christianity is one and the same religion. Let's see how we can make the story clear. In ancient world history, whites wrote out the fact that most of the world practiced the Buddhist religion. It was not called Buddhism, nor was it called Christianity. Let me put this in a way to show you, in a way that you understand that in the Christian Bible, there's the story of the priest, the Levite, and the Good Samaritan. In ancient times, the Buddhists or Gymnosophists were called Samaritans. There are two spellings of the word. The other is Sanmedia, that's Samanean. If you Google the word, you will find also the word Gymnosophist, which means Buddhist. See, Gym means naked, Sophist means philosophers. Buddhism is simply what the religion was called just a few hundred years ago. It would be very, very hard for anyone to believe Anthony Elmore. However, the concrete proof, the smoking gun, is that the original Christ of Black Buddhists from India are those Black Madonnas all over Europe. There is no way anyone can explain how white people all over Europe came to recognize and worship the Black God and his mother. Please understand what Roman King Constantine in 325 AD at the Council of Nicaea made official in Rome was the Christian religion. Again, he used the two names, Jesus and Krishna, that later became known as Jesus Christ. If you Google December the 25th, it is the birthday of the Buddha, it is the birthday of Krishna. All of this ties in. Now, it is very difficult and almost impossible to understand the parallel course of the two religions happening in our world at the same time. You see, there was the Brahmins and the Buddhists. There were two competing religions. Originally, the Brahmins were Black people in India, but they killed the Buddhists and they brought in whites to subdue Black Buddhists. The children of the whites who mixed with the Blacks ruled northern India, and they set up not only the world's first sanctified religion called the caste system, These light-skinned rulers known as Brahmins came up with a new religion. It was called Hindu. They and their religion rewrote history and created myths that later became known in the world as history and facts. See, the clearest way to delineate the original Christians with Black Buddhists is to separate the teachings of the Hindu Brahmins. Please understand that in ancient writings, the word Hindu, as in the Hindu religions, did not exist. The Hindu Brahmins rewrote history, they introduced myths, changed the dates, and they called it world history. There exists no archaeological evidence of Abraham, nor Moses or the Exodus. All of these stories come from the Hindu Brahmins, who rewrote history, changed dates, and appropriated Black Buddhist history. The two most noted written books by the Brahmins were the Vedas and the Torah. Both books are reeked with fraud, and they came from the same source, the Brahmins. Now, what you must understand is that there exists no archaeological evidence of the Torah of the Brahmins before AD. Now, we at the Proud Black Buddhist World Association can explain why there is a black baby, or black God baby with his mother, because the black God baby and his mother were originally Black Buddhists. Let me take you to some of the earliest archaeological evidence of a white Christ. The first archaeological evidence of Jesus happened in the 2nd century with the Kushan king Kanishka. Now, please understand that King Kanishka was a Kushan king who had ruled Afghanistan. Now, he conquered India. Now, for hundreds of years, the Greeks had introduced or had adopted the Buddhist religion. Now, when he conquered India, he changed the Buddha from black to white, and he created the beginnings of the Christian religion, and that in the 2nd century AD, he created what is called the Gandhara images. And when you look at these images, for example, you see one of the mother of the baby being bathed, or you see the 12 disciples. You see Buddha had 12 disciples, Jesus had 12 disciples. What they did was they took those pictures of the Greek-like images of Buddhists, and that is your foundation of the Christian religion. In fact, the first evidence of the Christian religion is on a Kanishka coin. On one side of the coin, you have Buddha, and the other side of the coin, we have Jesus. Now, you see, although we can show Black Buddhist Association of white people before the time of Alexander, please view the images of Alexander the Great with Buddhists. See, the ancient Greeks before Alexander was associated with Black Buddhists. There was a black man who was Socrates. He was a Gnostic or a Buddhist. Socrates taught Plato, Plato taught Aristotle. Aristotle taught Alexander the Great. Before there was ever an idea of a Jesus Christ, Greeks practiced Buddhism. What I want you to do, this is evidence of this, just Google the word Greco-Bactrian kingdom along with the Indo-Greek kingdoms, the easternmost part of the Hellenistic world, covering Bactria and Sardinia in Central Asia from 250 to 125 BC. Now, it was centered on the north of present-day Afghanistan. The expansion of the Greek code doctrines into present-day Eastern Afghanistan and Pakistan from 180 BC established the Indo-Greek kingdom, which was to last until around 10 AD. Now, you got to understand, you see, let's go back into India. Around 185 BC, the Brahmin general by the name of Pushyamitra Sangha killed the last Mauryan king, and they kicked the Buddhists out of India. Now we can go to 155 to 130 BCE to the Greek king Menander. Now he's also known as King Melinda. This was a great white Buddhist king. They got the stories of the answers of King Melinda and Buddhist history. You see, the Roman Empire was built from the Black Empire of the Etruscans, who were Buddhists. This is what white people do not tell black people. It was the Black Buddhists who was called by the Christians who Nero fed to the lion and Rome. Let me be clear. The world's first missionary religion was Buddhism. It was the Black Buddhist king Ashoka who peacefully spread the Buddhist religion around the world. That is evidence of what King Ashoka did. It got into Africa and it got all over to certain European countries. Now, let's get to this. Abraham represented the Hindu Roman Jews. Now, what you must understand is that Judaism was not a monolithic religion. The Jewish religion, everybody was not the same. For example, the Jews, there was a tribe of Jews who came to Africa from India hundreds of years before the other Jews. This tribe of Jews were called the tribe of Judah. The tribe of Judah is the same tribe as the Buddha. In fact, the Buddha Shakyamuni was called the Lion of the Shakas. Whenever you see the tribe of Judah, you are going to see the lion, because the lion represented the Buddhists. When you see the Ashoka-etic, which we're going to show you, the Ashoka-etic, you see the lions on the throne because they represented the tribe of Judah. You can see this at the Apodembac Temple in Africa. You see the Naga, which the Buddhists were Nagas, or the cobra snake coming out of the lotus flower, and you see that beautiful throne. This is in Africa. Now, what happened was that the people all over Europe later came to accept the Buddhist religion. Now, it is only the proud Black Buddhists who teach the true history that the original Christ were Black and Buddhist. When you challenge, you go to the 2nd century AD, where the Kushan king changed the Buddha from black to white. This is when all of this happened. Now, all one has to do is look at the Gandhara carvings of the Buddhists, and you will see the first foundation of the Christian religion, whereas Christians were moved from black to white. Now, what I want all the experts to explain to me is why we find the Black Buddhist god and his mother all over Europe. King Constantine sanctioned the Christian religion at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. The name again was Jesus Krishna, or Jesus Christ, became officially the name of the religion. But before it was the Christian religion, this religion was all over Europe. Now, the story of Jesus and Buddha is the same story and the same God. The story of the birth, death, and resurrection come from the new religion that King Kanishka and Ashwagosha created called Mahayana Buddhism. All the story, the birth, the death, and the resurrection of Christ comes from Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism was started by King Kanishka. Now, let us deal with Buddhism in Asia hundreds of years before Buddhism arrived in Asia, meaning China and Japan and Tibet. See, Buddhism became Christianity before these religions even got to Asia. Now, let me tell you how Christianity happened. You see, Christianity started with a group of Buddhists. They were not called Buddhists, but they were called Essenes. Now, the Essenes were a sect of Second Temple Judaism that flourished in the 2nd century BC to the 1st century. The Essenes lived in various cities but congregated in a communal life dedicated to asceticism. Some groups practiced celibacy, they volunteered poverty and daily immersions. The Essenes again were the Buddhists. Now, we move to the Hebrew king, Alexander Jannaeus. He was the king of the Hebrew king of Judea from 103 to 76 BCE. He was an Essene or a Buddhist. How do we know? Because he left a Buddhist koan. Now, the Buddhist koan shows the Dharma wheel. This shows that he was a Buddhist. Now, what happened was he got into a fight with the Brahmins. Now, the Brahmins were called the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Now, he got into a big fight. There was a big major war, and Alexander Jannaeus disappeared, the Essenes disappeared, and we never heard any more from them until about 1940 or 46, and they found some scrolls in a cave near the Dead Sea, and these were the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, in regards to black people worldwide, white people literally wrote black people out of history. Most white people are not going to tell black people that the original Christian God was black and Buddhist. Just ask white people and any scholarly Negro why you find the black God and his mother in European nations revered to this day. Now, let's bring this lecture to a close. Now, we told you that was the great Kush Empire of Morocco. Now, what happened was there was another group of black people who conquered the Kush Empire. Now, see, the Black Nubian Empire lasted until it was captured and burned to the ground in the 4th century AD by Ezana of Axum. That's from 320 to 360 the Christian era. It's located in present-day Eritrea, northern Ethiopia, Yemen and Saudi Arabia, northern Somalia, Djibouti, northern Sudan, and southern Egypt. King Ezana, he was trained by some shipwrecked Christians from Syria, and he grew up in Ethiopia, but what he did was he changed the religion from Buddhism to the Christian religion. This is how it happened in Ethiopia. What we know today as Christianity is simply Greek-style Buddhism. Our lecture is called The Christian Religion Evolved from Buddhism. I hope you got something from this. Again, my name is Anthony F. Elmore, Sr., President and founder of Proud Black Buddhist World Association, bringing you another exciting Black Buddhist lecture. Thank you very much.